Scarlett Blade. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Silent Night, Memoirs of a Royal Guard, Chapter 52. It was a dark and stormy night. The rain was coming down in buckets. A weather pony had gone rogue, or so the paper said. I stood under an awning in a long coat and fedora. Iridescence was next to me, looking nervous. "What's the matter, doll?" I asked her. Slowly she turned her eyes up at me and then glared. "We're not playing the detective game anymore. You're not a hard-boiled private investigator pony." "Oh, you're no fun." Winterspear returned from inside the station. "The train is just running a little late is all. Perfectly normal." "That isn't why I'm nervous," Iridescence replied. "I know, but don't worry. Everything will be fine, I promise." "Winterspear's right," I added. In the distance, a train whistled. It wouldn't be much longer now. Iridescence reached out and took Winterspear by the hoof as the engine pulled into the station. It hissed and steam poured out. Across from where we were, the door to the passenger car slid open, and the shadow of a little pony was cast out on the dark platform. From the well-lit car, she stepped out, her hooves clicking on the wood. She looked around and then spotted us. "Here we go," Iridescence said under her breath before stepping forward. The pony took one more step toward us and then galloped over to throw her hooves around Iridescence. "Hi!" Iridescence smiled. "Hello, Dot. I'm so happy to see you." Dot squeezed her sister. "Me too. Thank you for letting me come stay with you. I couldn't stand it there. Every pony's so mean." "I know, sweetie. You can stay with me as long as you like. Now come out of this rain. There are some ponies I want you to meet." The two walked under the awning, and Iridescence pointed at me. "You remember Silent Night, right?" Quickly, Dot nodded. "Yep, the angry stallion you used to be with." Iridescence cleared her throat and shook her head. "No, he isn't angry. He's my friend. Be nice to him." She then trailed a bit and then motioned to Winterspear. "And this is my special sun pony, Winterspear." The filly nodded, then followed the motion. I found that younger ponies are painfully honest. Dot was not an exception. "She looks like him." The unicorn laughed nervously, and her eyes quickly darted between my sister and I. "They're siblings, like you and me." Winterspear smiled and cut in. "It's very nice to meet you, Dot. I've been excited for you to arrive. We've set up a whole room for you at your sister's place." Dot looked up at Iridescence in confusion. "I had my own room before." Iridescence quickly cupped a hoof over the filly's mouth. "Yes, you did. But I don't have the bits like Daddy does. Having your own room here is really special, okay?" The muzzled Dot just nodded. Poor Iridescence. She wanted this to go perfectly. I didn't mind how Dot was, and I doubted Winterspear did either. With a smile, I took my fedora off and set it on Dot's head. "Okay, I'm going to get your bags. You ladies get indoors and out of the rain." They all nodded as they went inside the station. I heard Dot say, "It makes so much more sense that you're with a mare. I was really confused. Luminescence said you were just showing off a stallion so that you'd literally have something to wag in front of them." I heard Iridescence gasp and my sister laugh as I made my way over to get the bags. I stood quietly as Radiant Orchid unboxed her personal effects and started to decorate the office that was formerly mine. There was a box next to me, and I peered into it. 3 pencils, 2 pads, and a rock Runic had given me to use as a paperweight. I shrugged. "I can't believe you leave tomorrow. Everything is going to change so quickly," she said. Silently, I nodded. Tomorrow was going to be different. I wouldn't be coming to this place. There would be no armor. I would be doing all the preliminary requirements for the Royal Equestrian Officers Academy. Medical check, psychology check, background check, and things of that nature. A couple of weeks after I'd officially be a cadet. I was too old to be a cadet. Hopefully they wouldn't notice. I'd also be the first officer in my family, and there had been a lot of soldiers before me. Are you excited? Nervous? Registering anything that a pony might consider an emotion? Orchid asked. I'm concerned that other cadets will think I'm old, I said. She laughed and shook her head at me. Yes, you're older than a cadet, but you're not old. Good Celestia. You're not even middle-aged. And let me remind you that I almost am. They're all going to look up to you. You're a Mustang. A Mustang is a royal guard that completed enlisted training, spent time as an enlisted guard, and went on to complete Officers' Academy training and earn a commission. They were pretty rare and were always more experienced than their peers. Of course, sometimes they fall back into enlisted habits, which isn't a good thing. I'll be one when I finish, I corrected. Splitting hairs, Radiant Orchid replied. You know you're going to finish. They know you're going to finish. You've got a lot of sergeant experience, combat experience, and I heard you have one of Canterlot's finest ladies training you on the gentle pony stuff. You're golden. Try to have fun. Celestia knows you probably won't learn anything. I started to argue, but she had a good point. Maybe it would be fun. Fine, I said, and then added, you better not wreck my unit while I'm gone. On Fridays, I'm going to let them wear socks, she said in a tone that I couldn't judge between mocking and serious. I'll have you in the stockade if you do. You probably would, Orchid said. She came over and took my hoof in hers. I shook it in return and smiled. I know we'll see each other, but I want you to know I'm proud of you. Go be the guard you were always meant to be. Thanks, I replied, giving her hoof a light squeeze. Enjoy settling your new role. The lieutenant is here if you need him. Yep, now scoot. Get out and up into your new office, so it is fresh when you get back, she said, shooing me out. I pushed the door to the Spearhead Tavern open and walked right around lunchtime. The place always looked different at that time of day. It was better lit thanks to the sun coming through the windows, and ponies weren't drinking anything hard. Most were just eating lunch. There was an earth pony sitting alone at a table with his helmet off. He was pretty much all gray, but the stage of his life, but there was some blue left. Enough to recognize him, and despite the gray coat and mane, he was still fairly fit. All the other guards gave him a lot of room. Easing across the tavern slowly, I slipped onto the stool across from him and he looked up at me. The pony's brow arched, and he had to look that a cat was when it corners a mouse. I was no mouse, though. Good afternoon, Chief, I said with my highest level of professionalism. I'll apologize for interrupting your lunch. Never a good idea, Sergeant. He wanted my name. There was a ploy senior NCOs used to make others go away. We all look relatively the same in our armor, so with a name they could dole out punishment. Of course, in my case, he could narrow it down really easily, and I wasn't about to run. Silent Night. Silent Night. He more chewed my name than said it. What brings PLHGs to my table? I shook my head and took my helmet off. Nothing to do with Princess Luna. Just me. What brings you to my table, First Sergeant? I reached into my saddlebag and produced an alabaster cross. Setting it on the table, I leaned in and said softly, Chief, I've got a griffin problem. I'm betting you've heard about it, and I'm hoping you can help me with it. That caught his attention, and he replied, I'm listening. Knight a family name? Yes, it is, I replied. The chief sat silent, contemplating before replying. You boys have a habit of getting hurt over there. You've come to the right pony. I was hoping you'd say that. It was the inn I needed, so I got down to business. It seems that keeping a surprise party secret for 2 weeks is a difficult task for most ponies. Not me, of course, but every pony else struggled. It made game night extremely difficult as every pony acted strange around Runic. I went from party planner to secret protector. At one point, I had to flat out tackle Winterspear to keep her from saying anything. Thankfully, Runic was oblivious to our poorly executed subterfuge. It was finally the night of the party, and we were all hiding in the gardens waiting for Miley Hooves to arrive with our guest of honor. I'd carefully instructed her to ensure he didn't have any volatile alchemy supplies on him. We didn't want any casualties. Over my shoulder I heard the sound of an owl hoot. It was our signal that the party pony had been sighted. We crouched lower and waited. Miley had Runic by the hoof and was dragging him out into the garden. "You have to see it. She's cheerfully the biggest flower I have ever seen. We can totally make a potion out of it." Runic lightly nodded but didn't seem thrilled. Alchemy without rocks just wasn't the same for him. When they got within range, we all jumped and yelled, "Surprise!" At least, most of us did. For not being a trained soldier, Runic was pretty quick. He tossed several smoke bombs on instinct and filled the whole area with dense fog. "Runic?" I said in my normal tone. "Yeah, Silent Night?" he responded. "Surprise, happy birthday," I said flatly. "I see that now." We waited for the smoke to clear, and then the party got underway. Crystal Wishes had found an amazing string quartet that agreed to play the rock songs Runic was into. They were led by a pony named Octavia, and we were some of the most talented musicians I've never listened to. Even if you aren't into rock music, this was great. Everything was perfect, and the garden was full of Runic's closest friends. We were being introduced to some of Miley's friends for the first time, too. Mixing two different groups of ponies was interesting, but it worked out. I never doubted Miley would have good taste in others. "And this is my friend Val," Miley said happily as she introduced a gray unicorn mare. Val had an almost purple mane that also had blue-gray highlights. "Nice to meet you," I said. Val smiled and nodded. "It is nice to meet you too, Silent Night. I've heard a lot about you. I understand you rescue Miley often." We laughed, and I replied, "Only as often as necessary." Miley huffed and gently pushed me. "Don't you have other ponies to bother?" "I do, actually. Nice to meet you again. Have fun." Quietly, I walked around to make sure everything had been laid out right before allowing myself to relax. The cake Velvet's parents had made was beyond my expectations, except for a slice that had been stealthily cut from the back. I looked around and my ears twitched as the bushes nearby rustled. I approached and peeked in. A wide flank was beating another cake-related hasty retreat. "Have some dignity," I called teasingly. "You're a ruler of a nation." "What?" Princess Una said from behind me. Somehow she had crept up on me. I turned to face her. "Cake bandit, princess," I reported. Princess Una appeared and then nodded. "I've seen this work before. Little harm has been done. Come, join the party. You put a lot of effort into bringing us all together." We walked together, and I replied, "I really think she has a problem." The princess just laughed. Velvet Step and Crystal Wishes were politely chatting with some of Miley's friends, and I wandered over to practice politely, injecting myself into the conversation. I waited for Velvet to stop speaking and said smoothly, "Good evening, ladies. Don't you all look lovely tonight?" That gammered delighted giggles and an approaching wink from Crystal Wishes, who said, "You're looking like your old self, Sergeant, perhaps even stronger than before. What's your secret?" She was right about that. A few weeks ago, I was a sorry excuse for a military Pegasus. Now I was healthy, strong, and broad once more. I owe it all to Winterspear. She has been a tyrant with my meals and exercise. I've recommended her to the Royal Guard Training Academy as an instructor. If my time under her has taught me anything, it is that they've gone soft there. More polite laughter. What can I say? I had a good tutor. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Dot sitting alone and idly pawing the ground. "If you'll excuse me, there's a special little filly that needs some attention," I said before lightly bowing my head. I trotted over to her and called, "Hey, Dot!" "Hi, Silent Night," she said without looking up. "Enjoying the party?" I asked. Dot bobbed her head. It was yes and no at the same time. It's all right, I guess. There aren't many ponies my age here. I sat down in front of her and idly pawed the same spot. Ah, I see. We're all too old for you? I asked. Dot looked up and shot me one of Iridescence's stares. It was horrifying. It isn't the same. I shook the frost from my coat and nodded. I know what you mean. Parties used to make me nervous. It's easier with friends. Are you making any friends yet at school? The filly frowned. Not yet. Fillies are mean here, too. Not as mean as in Manhattan, but still mean. I'm the new girl. At least when I came home, Iridescence is nice. And I like you and Winterspear, too. I struggled to come up with something to say, and then I got an idea. Say, Dot, have you ever flown before? Dot caught her attention, and she looked up at me. Flown? No, I'm a unicorn. All I can do is magic. The despairing comment on magic aside, I grinned. Would you like to fly? Well, yeah. She perked up even more. I got up and knelt beside her. Hop on my back and hold on tight, okay? Dot did so and cheered, okay. I stood and started to prance around the garden, looking for a long enough patch to get going. Iridescence noticed and came over to Winterspear. What are you two up to? Iridescence asked cautiously. We're gonna fly, Dot exclaimed. Winterspear looked concerned and hedged. I'm not sure. Silent Night isn't feeling his best lately. Please, Mom, I said flatly, and Dot mimicked me. I didn't really wait for permission before I started galloping across the garden and leapt into the air. It was easier than I thought it would be. Dot probably didn't weigh much as my gold armor and gear. Besides, I was probably in the best shape of my life at that point. I just hadn't pushed it in a while. Wow! Dot screamed from above me. I felt her hold on to my neck tighter. I can see everything. I made certain she could too. We made 2 wide circles around Canterlot and then a close one around the palace. She cheered the whole time, and I did too. It was great to be well. Finally, I landed us safely back in the garden, and she hopped off. With a warm hug, she squealed, Thanks, Silent Night. That was awesome. You bet, Dot, I replied, and then groaned under the sudden weight of Runic File. As he landed on my back, he cheered, Me next! Me next! Runic, you're a Pegasus. You can fly, I said. But I'm the birthday pony, he retorted in a mock whine. If the birthday pony wanted to fly, we were going to fly. I grunted and then took off. He shouted, Whee! The whole time. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Have a wunderbar day.